Ladies and gentlemen, the story you're about to see is true.
I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to be perfect.
Imagine being arrested for driving under the influence with nothing in your system.
Just 2 months ago, we exposed the story of a local student fighting to clear her name after she was charged with a DWI despite not drinking.
And we're going to start with a story that will have a lot of you talking. A man charged with DUI and held in jail, even though his breathalyzer test came back 0.0.
Tonight, could this be you? A man in Texas gets pulled over, is asked to do a field sobriety test. He's arrested and charged with driving while intoxicated, but he blew a 0.00 on a breath test. The lowest result you can get on a breathalyzer. What the heck's going on here?
Put your hands on. How many drinks you had tonight? You had one drink?
There could be as many 200 victims of what's being called a bogus DUI scam.
A courtroom battle could put hundreds of DUI cases in Washington in jeopardy. It's already forced out the state toxicologist. The issue is with breathalyzer tests and what a panel of judges call a culture that tolerated lapses in ethics and judgment.
When police use a breathalyzer to check for DUI, it's supposed to give you the right answer. But if you don't use it correctly, it does not.
As a result, hundreds of drunk driving convictions in San Francisco could be tossed out.
The city's prosecutor's office is dismissing roughly a dozen DUI cases.
Now, it comes after 2 Honolulu Police Department sergeants are accused of falsifying police reports while overseeing DUI enforcement.
Good morning. This affects nearly every single DUI arrest made in San Jose since November. We're talking about 865 cases in all. The problem is with the breathalyzer that's used by San Jose police.
He admitted to withholding evidence from a case, and now the state attorney says he can't take the stand anymore.
NBC2 investigative reporter David Hodges has been digging into this deputy's past and found out this is not the first time he's been called out by prosecutors.
After a whistleblower claimed last year the breathalyzers used by D.C. police have not been tested for accuracy, perhaps for many, many years.
Tonight, a highway patrol trooper finds himself on the other side of the law, accused of lying on DUI reports. Trooper Scott Kunstman was arrested this morning after alleged inconsistencies were discovered between that dash cam video and his report.
But another sheriff's deputy arrested her for drunk driving anyway, and the county hung those charges over her head for nearly a year, even long after blood tests proved she was perfectly sober.
As the DA's office began presenting evidence supporting 24 counts of filing false reports and 10 counts of perjury. Police Sergeant Marnie Sturgis demonstrated how DUI sobriety tests are conducted.
More than 100 people might have been convicted or just investigated for drunk driving because of a failure of the breathalyzers being used in Ventura County.
At the time, prosecutors were dismissing about 30% of drunk driving cases, more than any other major Texas county, because they said APD was bringing them cases that wouldn't hold up in court. A defender's review finds similar statistics for 2013. Of 5,648 new DWI cases filed last year, 1,559, a little less than 30%, were dismissed.
Well, Sean Sharon, according to those court documents, Deputy Robert Davis lied not only here in Wake County Court, but also filed at least 2 other false reports involving DWI cases. So now the more than 100 cases that he was a part of that are pending, they've got to be thrown out of court.
You may remember Steed was formerly Trooper of the Year, but the Utah Highway Patrol recently fired Steed after ABC4 discovered she had made several false DUI arrests. Attorney Robert Sykes says he believes hundreds of drivers' rights may have been violated, and Steed may not be the only culprit.
Police stopping a suspected drunk driver in Santa Monica has now turned into a big payday for the driver 3 years later, all because he pulled out his cell phone and then hit record.
The machine's faulty software inaccurately processed DUI cases for years.
The very first time they used it, it failed. And it just kept on failing, month after month, error after error.
And a judge today agreed with them.
So you're talking about hundreds of cases?
No, I'm talking about thousands of cases.
Kevin Curtis leads a state association of criminal defense attorneys.
Confidence in what is supposed to be an independent forensic laboratory has been compromised to an extreme degree.
Last month, 3 King County judges agreed that crime lab managers repeatedly made mistakes and signed false certifications of breathalyzer tests.
Looking ahead now, starting today, Rhode Island State Police are going to enforce a zero-tolerance policy for those caught
driving under the influence. A zero-tolerance policy. A zero-tolerance policy.
The legal blood alcohol limit is 0.08. This woman's blood test came back 0.05, and her case was dismissed. But people will still have to pay thousands in court and attorney fees and have their license suspended, even though a court will never find them guilty.
We definitely want to keep people off the roadway who are a threat, but some of these cases that we're seeing get filed, they simply weren't intoxicated.
Do you see cases where people should not have been arrested?
Oh, certainly. Oh, certainly. Oh, certainly.
I have spoken to a number of attorneys in the area who say this happens all the time. That there are people who do not know the system, who do not know that there is a financial incentive for the officers to do this, and so they just plead and get on with their life, and then they've got an alcohol-related offense on their record when it isn't true.
I don't have to be perfect.
Drunk driving arrests are down sharply after decades of aggressive enforcement, while drugged driving arrests are actually climbing. Georgia now has more than 250 officers with special drug recognition expert training, but 11 Alive Chief Investigator Brendan Keefe discovered some drivers are getting arrested for driving stoned, even when their drug test came back clean. Discovered some drivers are getting arrested for driving stoned, even when their drug test came back clean. Even when their drug test came back clean.
Training is the key, is really getting the officers up to the point where they're comfortable making these arrests.
The department increased DUI nabs by 32% from 2014 to 2015, also winning the highest rate of arrests per officer. Carroll Stream's edge over bigger burbs is believed to be special drugged driver training. Marijuana and heroin, the biggest offenders here.
Our drug DUIs have spiked considerably because we're now understanding what we're looking at and being able to make those arrests.
And when his urine was tested for the presence of drugs, the results came back negative. Still, Aiello says he spent 24 hours in jail and was charged with driving under the influence.
Larry Davis spent the night in jail, even voluntarily took a blood test to prove he wasn't on any drugs.
Brad was arrested for DUI. The only thing in his system was one over-the-counter pill. Now, the only evidence against him was the opinion of a police officer.
I'm gonna pull him out and check his sobriety. Okay.
The only drug detector available in the field is the officer himself.
New at 5, the former Statham police officer whose false DUI arrest put him under scrutiny.
Several indicators.
Okay, so when I do a drug test, I'll be free to go, correct?
You're going to jail, ma'am, okay? I don't have a magical drug test that I can give you right now.
But he just did the magic drug test that resulted in your arrest.
They're ruining innocent people's lives.
So the blood test comes back, they toss the case.
I remember my lawyer trying to talk about a deal. I was like, what? I'm not taking a deal. I didn't do anything.
A Georgia father nearly loses custody of his 2 children because of a DUI arrest, but he didn't have anything to drink.
Tonight, the single over-the-counter allergy pill that left a father fighting to save his family.
They wanted me to go to a lesser plea and go to DUI school.
Because of a Benadryl you took almost 24 hours earlier. Because of a Benadryl you took almost 24 hours earlier. Because of a Benadryl you took almost 24 hours earlier.
I don't suspect you being under the influence of alcohol. I do suspect you being under the influence of a pain medication or some sort of medication. Okay, at this point in time, I request that you submit to a urine sample.
A drug recognition evaluation involves a dozen observations that allow officers not only to pronounce a driver is on drugs, but to identify which of 7 types of drugs are in their system. He didn't do the full DRE evaluation after the arrest. The standard protocol requires all 12 steps to be completed.
Some sort of medication. Okay, at this point in time, I request that you submit to a urine sample. Some sort of medication. Some sort of medication.
But once the state attorney's office was notified that the operational plan wasn't followed and they were pulling over more than every 3rd car, instead of dropping the cases, the state attorney's office took a new tactic. And it got 10 law enforcement officers who worked that night to sign affidavits saying the operational plan was followed. A bald-faced lie.
Because when you look at the video, you can see that the operational plan is not following as it's supposed to be.
What does it do to our system when someone is so zealous about trying
to get a conviction where they will lie on an affidavit and get law enforcement officers to swear that what is not true is true.
When they lose in court, nothing happens to them.
They have nothing to lose, and the citizen has everything to lose. Their name, their reputation, their lifestyle.
You're going to jail, ma'am, okay? I don't have a magical drug test that I can give you right now.
But he just did the magic drug test that resulted in your arrest.
They're ruining innocent people's lives.
I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to be perfect. I have to be reasonable, and I have to have probable cause.
Is this driver innocent of DUI?
Well, he is now. I mean, the court dismissed the charges against him.
A culture that tolerated lapses in ethics and judgment. A culture that tolerated lapses in ethics and judgment.
I don't classify that as nitpicky. I think it goes to fundamental issues, both of fairness, of justice, of life and liberty.
The problem's been going on for years. The problem's been going on for years. The problem's been going on for years. For years. For years.